Coming to you from the Oddball Podcast Studios in New York City. My name is Vin Forte, and you're listening to Oddball with Vin Forte. Go follow the show first and foremost over on YouTube, youtube.com/@Oddball Podcast. That's youtube.com/@Oddball Podcast. If you want to listen to the podcast in a more traditional manner, you can go ahead and do that over on Apple, Spotify. Those are pretty much the only two. I'm sure you can get it through Google Play, Deezer. I don't know. Do people still use that? I know Stitcher. I always say they went bankrupt last year, so you can't go to Stitcher anymore. I take that out of the Chiron on the bottom of the screen. So don't go there. But Apple and Spotify, you know where to get your podcasts from, because you're listening to one right now. You're not dumb. I'm not playing you for a fool here. But go follow the social media accounts if you want to keep up on everything. On Twitter /X @Oddball Podcast. But more importantly, apparently, Instagram @Oddball_pod. I was very late to the game on Instagram. Only started one like 2-3 months ago. And that's been like the biggest driver of people to the podcast, even more than YouTube, which I was again very late on. So I don't know what's going on. Like, I post stuff to Instagram and it's at least like once a week now, like something kind of blows up. So good for me, bully for me and bully for Instagram. But as you know, I don't like to come alone every week. Every once in a while it happens. But look, this is not one of those weeks. So lucky for you, bully for you, because we brought this man. You can get him up on the screen here, Jermaine from the Susio Boys podcast. You and
yes.
DX Keys.
Susio Sports.
Yeah. What is Susio mean? Am I just like out of the loop and that's like slang that I'm not picking up on?
It means dirty in Spanish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. It means dirty in Spanish.
So you're the dirty boys.
Yeah, what happened was Sloan, Marty, and Ahun started the Susio Boys pod like a while back. And their idea was, we want to build a whole network of other podcasts that have different topics, because they cover like all kind of goofy stuff, bullshit, pop culture, things like that. And we friends for a while, and we were like, why don't you do the sports pod? Why don't you do I was like, I don't know, I'm kind of busy. I got all this stuff going on. And finally I just relented and said, you know what? Fuck it. Let's do it. So we did Susio Sports, and it's been we're almost 30 episodes deep right now.
Yeah, you've been committing to it. It's not like one of these things where, okay, yeah, I'll take it on, and then you do it for 2 weeks, and then you don't do it for a month, and like there have been people who I've been following for a little while now who get in this rut of like, you just fall out of the consistency, and you can't do that. Like, yeah, life takes precedence, and you can, miss a week here and there, but by and large, like, you gotta. Consistency is the name of the game, so it's exciting to see you guys, keeping it consistent. Every you guys do earlier in the week. A lot of people do their pods later in the week, so you carved out a nice little space for yourself. What you do Mondays? Mondays
we do Tuesdays. Tuesdays or Wednesdays, either one, depending on our schedules. Around 8:30, 8:45, roughly, we'll go live. We just figured out like, okay, this will be our window, because we started like during football season. And during football season, Tuesday, Wednesday are those 2 days where NFL actually has their off days on Tuesdays, and then Wednesdays they start practice for the following week. So it's like you have that little niche where it's right in the wheelhouse in between games. Also, during the NBA season, they could or have games that night, and Major League Baseball plays every night. So we just figured this would be our perfect little wheelhouse.
There you go. So go check those guys out, and let's kick off with some. You said we're not going to kick off with football because there's no football going on right now, but we do have some basketball. This is a basketball-heavy podcast. As you see on your screen right now, if you're watching on YouTube, Vince Carter, Chauncey Billups, very early 2000s heavy Hall of Fame this year.
Yes,
they had sort of been in the running. It's been teased for like months now, right? Where they've been like, they're in the finals, they're gonna be in the running, and it's like, no, they're gonna get in. Like, I don't think there was ever any doubt that Vince Carter and Chauncey, but there seems to be like some weird contention I'm seeing online where people are kind of more on the fence about Chauncey getting in, and I thought it would be quite the opposite because Vince Carter's my favorite player of all time, but even with that, I was kind of on the fence about Vince Carter because it's like, you know what, 8-time All Star, dunk, revived the dunk contest. We know how great he is in the regular season, but just could never translate to any deep, real deep playoff run outside of that 1 year with him and Iverson going back and forth. While where Chauncey was a Finals MVP, and the Pistons did get back to the fight, like they kind of had a little bit of a stretch in the early to mid 2000s. So I get Chauncey more than Vince Carter, but I'll take them both. I mean, again, some people like to look at the Hall of Fame and go, "Hey, look, everyone gets in," but
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, you can't really tell the story of base. We'll get to baseball in a little bit. You can't tell the story of basketball in America, and you can't tell the story of basketball in Canada without Vince Carter.
Right. He was such a huge influence, not only on the game, but Vince also helped bring the dunk contest back. Because that dunk contest in 2000 with him, Tracy McGrady, Steve Francis, and those guys, like that really like woke up the dunk contest again, and it made it cool again, and it made it that event on All-Star Weekend that everyone looks forward to. And to say that this man played on the wing and was an athletic wing pretty much his whole career. I mean, towards the end, yes, of course, he lost some of that athleticism when he's 40, 41 years old, 42 playing. But Vince Carter kind of changed the game because he showed that you can be a powerful, guy, and you can jump out the gym and you can do all these highlight dunks. But you know what? You can also have a decent mid-range game, and you can play solid defense, and you can still, do all of these things. And as far as I'm concerned, like when you have that long of a career and you put up those kind of numbers, people will try to take away from your legacy and say it's a longevity thing. But to me, availability is your best ability a lot of the times. And because he was able to sustain his health and his body for 20 plus years in the NBA and still be a contributing member of a team, into his early 40s, that's a testament to him as a basketball player. So why wouldn't you want to honor this man and put him in the Hall of Fame like glowingly?
Well, that's what I always say about availability because a lot of people like to poo-poo like the last, even like let's be conservative and say 12 years of his career, and go like, oh well, he was he turned into a journeyman. Like, who cares about the latter years of Vince Carter? It's like being in the NBA isn't nothing. Like, there's only so many people who've ever. What is it? What's the number? It's like less than like 5,000 people total who've ever played in the NBA. So to be in that kind of rarefied air for that long and make yourself, attractive to a team. Like, I always use the example of people kind of jokingly talk about Jeremy Lin, how he got a ring before Carmelo because he got added to that Toronto team, like right before the playoffs, and didn't really contribute, didn't really do a whole lot. But it's like, to me, he worked hard and got himself in that position where a contending team wanted to pick him up. So he's part of that squad. You don't know what he did in practice. Maybe he's one of those glue guys that like you hear a lot of great things about, and he helped, some guy on the team push through, and then that guy made the effort because of a guy like Jeremy. Like, you don't know, but all we do know is that that guy was on the Knicks, had a moment, was traded to Houston, and then worked his way back up to a contending team, and then got a ring for it. Like, he put himself in that position. And in the case of Vince Carter, yeah, he never got a ring, but he kept himself in enough of a position to be available and wanted actively by all these teams in the second act of his career. And then, now we switch over to Chauncey. And again, I'm kind of shocked that I seem to see, a lot of people on social media that are more contentious about Chauncey going in. I don't get that at all. Like and I get it. Like, look, is Andre Iguodala gonna go into the Hall of Fame? Like, I don't know, maybe not, but he's got a Finals MVP. Like it does mean something to have the ring and the Finals MVP. Like that means that you're, uh, or at least like tips its hat to this idea that you're some sort of leader on this team, that you did something extra special.
Well, the thing is, like, there's so many guys to me in the Basketball Hall of Fame that are kind of on the fringe of whether or not you would think that they would be a Hall of Famer. And one of those guys, Tracy McGrady. And I look at T-Mac, and T-Mac never won a title, never even got to the second round of the playoffs.
But people will say it's because of his scoring titles.
And I mean, he won, what, 3? So are we putting everybody who won 3 scoring titles in the Hall of Fame? Even if they didn't have like team or playoff in success in the playoffs and whatnot. So like you have to, with basketball, it's really weird because there's guys in there that I feel like shouldn't be, and there's guys that are coming up that I'm going to feel like, okay, this guy should be. But when you look at the totality of it, when you look at a player like Chauncey Billups, he has a ring, he has a Finals MVP. So you can say that. And then you look at a guy like McGrady, well, he doesn't have the team success, but he has some individual accolades that he has over Chauncey Billups. So you got to kind of weigh them differently, but almost try to weigh them the same. It's very, very, it's like almost like a give and take. And you have to try to compare apples and oranges and try to make it make sense.
Yeah, well, again, different Hall of Fames are different too, right? So the Baseball Hall of Fame, I know, has been getting some slack for a couple of years because of the Veterans Committee, but by and large, like they try and be kind of a pretty buttoned up Hall of Fame. Same thing with the NFL Hall of Fame, though. Again, that's not flawless either. But people always sort of poo-poo the Basketball Hall of Fame because, like you said, they take in the totality of your entire career, going back to college and even high school in some cases, and to me, like they should just come out and kind of give up the ghost. Like they should come out the Basketball Hall of Fame and just be like, look, we're here to tell the story of basketball.
Yes.
And
now
if you've made a significant contribution to the game, we consider that Hall of Fame worthy.
Yes.
And are there going to be people, because the big argument people try and throw out is like, well, you're going to have Michael Jordan in there and then also like Bernard King. It's like, yeah, just because Michael Jordan, is so far in a way like above the bar for acceptance, doesn't mean that someone else who just makes the bar doesn't deserve to get in. Like if you're in school and you get a 75 on a test and someone else gets 100, like you both pass the class. The guy who got 100 doesn't get like super credit or anything. Like, so, I don't know what to tell you. Like when it comes to the Hall of Fame, like, yeah, this guy over here is going to get in, but then also this other guy's going to get in.
And my thing is you like you said, and you worded it perfectly. You have to look at their contribution to the game of basketball. And it's almost as if everyone will go into the Basketball Hall of Fame as a contributor. Now, whether that person was an actual contributor to the game itself or they were a coach or a player, you just look at them as they contributed to the history of the game. And I looked it up, and there's roughly about 400 to 500 members of the Hall of Fame. And of those, it's about 175, to 200 roughly that are players. The rest are contributors and over 100 or so coaches. So we look at how many actual players got in, but then also look at how many players got in because there's players and coaches. There's a handful of those, or players and contributors. I mean, Jerry West is in the Hall of Fame as a player, a coach, and a contributor or something like that. Like he's a 3-time Hall of Famer. So you want to look at it in the totality of what did they help do to the game to evolve or grow the game overall. And if you look at it like that, then you can say, yes, a Tracy McGrady, a Chauncey Billups, a Bernard King does belong in the same Hall of Fame as a Michael Jordan, a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and a Magic Johnson.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think that again, the Basketball Hall of Fame, people say it's very vague. I think they should just come out and say, "Hey, look, this is our mission statement. We want to again, like give you the history of basketball, and just again, if you've made a big contribution, you get in. If you've done something spectacular in your career, if you've got multiple Finals MVPs, you get in." I know one of the big discussions I keep hearing about someone who's gonna probably retire soon is Derrick Rose,
Mm-hmm.
and like, should Derrick Rose get in? Because and look, I think he should, because there's something to being the youngest league MVP ever and
Mm-hmm.
having such a great start to your career and like how you impacted the game. But I could see how he might not get in, because one of my favorite players is Penny Hardaway. And if we were just telling the story of 90s basketball and like who you have to include on like an all 90s team, Penny would be like a top pick. But if we're talking the Hall of Fame, all of a sudden it's not so much. Like, yeah, he got to a finals. Yeah, he was an all-star for a couple years, like four-time all-star, whatever. But those injuries keep him out of that company.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you know the guys like that, man. And I hate bringing up other Hall of Fames, but in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, you got guys like Gale Sayers and Terrell Davis, whose careers were cut short for injury, and those guys managed to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But in basketball, you don't really see guys get in or get acknowledged when their career was cut short or their abilities were cut short because of injury. So I would like to see stuff like that happen. Will it? I don't know. It could eventually, but guys like Derrick Rose, those are the real guys that I say are on the fringe more than a Chauncey Billups would be, because it's like
Yeah.
he has those accomplishments, but those accomplishments happen in such a small period of time in his career because of the injuries. And you look at the rest of his career and like the trajectory that he was on at that point, it was the sky was the limit. He was literally
Yeah.
going to be the next almost Jordan type figure in Chicago Bulls basketball history. And it added to the lore because he was from the city. So he was going to be Chicago's LeBron because LeBron was up at that time. And it was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you got the kid from Akron who's with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now you got the kid from Chicago with the Bulls. And they're going head to head every year. We were supposed to get this for 10 to 15 years, and we were robbed of it.
Yeah, and sometimes that's just how it goes. But speaking of that's just how it goes sometimes, we're going to switch over to the MLB,
Oh,
where
boy.
the Oakland, or I guess soon to be former Oakland Athletics,
Mm-hmm.
are going. It's been known for a little while now that they're going to be moving out of their current stadium and they're going to be moving to Las Vegas. And that
Mm-hmm.
current stadium they got has been run down for years. Their owner, John Fisher, doesn't pump any money into it. I think it was last season. You had all uh, the visiting commentary teams and booths that were coming in and had to relocate to other parts of the stadium because of possums. Like, it was insane. Like, there
Mm-hmm.
was a possum infestation. Like, that's the kind of thing where that shouldn't happen. You hear of a possum infestation in a stadium, you think, oh, they're gonna bring some guys in over the weekend and we're gonna get rid of that.
Right.
Not the Athletics. They've been having that issue for a while now, and their fan base, as small as it is, has been doing protests. Like, to open the season this year, they did sort of like a sit. It's not a sit. They did like a sit out where they were just in the parking
Mm-hmm.
lot.
Yeah.
Um, and then sort of the big cherry on top this week was Rob Manfred and John Fisher announced that they're going to be playing for the next 3 seasons while they're building a new stadium, ballpark, whatever you want to call it, in Las Vegas. They're going to be going to a minor league park in San Francisco that's only going to hold like 1/4, if that, the amount of people of their current home, and it's at Sutter Health Park, where, and I want to get this right, it's a AAA park where the Sacramento River Cats play. So that's where they're going to be. They're going down to where the River Cats are. And when John Fisher was talking about it, when they did the press conference outside Sutter Health Park, he gave maybe the worst speech he could have given, where I'm paraphrasing, he basically said, I can't wait till other teams come here and we can see guys like Aaron Judge hit home runs out of, quote, like the most intimate park in MLB.
Oh yeah, that speech that he gave, I saw another clip of it, and he was the pompous assness of his words came out so vividly, because the way he was holding that microphone and smiling and the look on his face was just like, I really did something, guys. You should be proud of me. And it spoke to me more like a politician who got caught with his pants down and is trying to go on a PR tour of goodwill, but he keeps screwing stuff up. That's what he really sounded like to me. And it's like, you could have easily fixed a lot of the issues you had you thrown a little bit of money and a little bit of care and a little bit of give a shit into the situation that you were in. You not only made it worse, you kept compounding the problem, and now you continue to make it worse. And it's almost as if like his team should be taken from him because he's too stupid to be an owner.
Well, that's the weird thing, because on one hand you'll have people be like, well, they should go to Vegas now, because why should he? But he's still going to be the owner. Like, it's not like he sold the team. Like, he just up and moved it to Vegas because he could probably get more money there.
Of
but
course.
And I guess the argument, for people who I don't know who's supporting him, but the argument on the other side would probably be, oh well, we have some of the lowest attendance in baseball, so we had to make a move. It's like, yeah, but why do you have the lowest attendance?
Right.
Like, you have a storied franchise. It's not like the Athletics have done nothing in their entire history as a team. Like, you've got no one there because the park sucks, the team sucks, and again, like you said, you haven't pumped any money into it. Like,
right.
You have to invest in these things, but a lot of these smaller market owners tend to not do that because they know the people are going to show up. And yeah, you can get away with that in some markets, but I guess you can't get away with it in Oakland because people just stop showing up.
Well, the thing is a lot of these franchises and everything, because of the revenue sharing and because of the way the TV contracts work and just all the different revenue streams that they can create outside of just what's going on at the turnstile, they know, if I can get 1.5 million to 2 million people in here in these 80 some odd games we may play, if we make the playoffs, I'm good. I'm on autopilot, because I know with all the other money that we're making, all I need to do is get at least this many people in to see these games every year, and I'm turning a profit.
Yeah.
And when they look at it like it's just a business, it's not a real passion of theirs, that's when you see owners, especially in smaller markets, they just on autopilot, and they're just like, look, are we turning a profit or not? Yes, we're turning a profit. Okay, keep the status quo going. That's all I'm worried about, is turning a profit. And they know that if you really care and you really show that passion behind your team and you're investing in things, it's going to cost you more money. Now it's eating into your profits. But hey, look, your fan base is happy and your team is winning. They don't see that you could have more profitability by raising the value of your franchise by winning. Instead, they're looking at the small, the micro of it, and I just want to turn a profit every year.
Well, again, like, my question is, so when they finally move to Vegas, are the Vegas fans going to be so forthcoming and like adopting this team as their own now? Like, I don't really see, I don't know, I don't see that happening. I know Vegas has been getting a lot of teams lately. Started with hockey, then they got a WNBA team, then they got a football team. Things are building, things are popping off in Vegas. So of course, Yeah, you do want your own, you want your own baseball team, but it feels like this is just the complete wrong way to go about it. And then again, to have this weird detour, like we've seen stuff like this before, like the Washington Commanders, where it's like, oh,
Mhm.
we need a new name, but that's just a name. Like, they're still played in the same place. Like, but this is a whole different thing where it's like we're moving to a whole new park in a different part of the state for 3 years, not even 1 year. Like, they have 3 years of an option for a fourth if the stadium isn't built yet. So like you're basically you're punting on 3 to 4 years of your entire franchise.
Mm-hmm. You're basically taking like a red shirt year, a COVID year, and then a self journey year back to back to back. And then we're going to reset our franchise. And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't get it. Like, why are you so comfortable with that? And you can't charge MLB ticket prices in a minor league park. I'm sorry. So to say that, well, we were only getting this much attendance anyway, so if we just sell out all of these games, we're still on par for where we would have been regardless. I don't believe that either, because eventually the way they run that team is that they'll have some okay teams that'll be in some interesting games come August, September, and attendance will go up, and you will get more people into that ballpark. But if he wants to run his team like that, you like it, I love it. More power to you. Like, it's, to me, it's just not a good business model, and it does not show people that you're really in it to win in the long haul.
Oh, and what's that going to be like for the visiting team? Like you're part of the New York Yankees. You show up at the Swamp Rat Park.
Mm-hmm.
That's like one fourth the size of your of a regular park. Like, yeah, it is going to be a little intimate, John. It's going to be way intimate. You're going to be on top of each other there.
Imagine showing, like, you get to this 5-star, walled off hotel, and you're on this luxury bus, and you pull up to like this 8,000 seat minor league ballpark. Like, how does that would mind fuck me? I'm sorry. I would just be kind of thrown off, because like I'm so used to this life of luxury and the amenities, and the clubhouse attendance, and the pregame spread, the postgame spread, and just there's so many different little things that you take for granted that most people don't even think or know about, that you see in a major league locker room that you will not see in this minor league locker room. It doesn't matter how big or how nice it is. There is a stark difference in those two locker rooms.
And how demoralizing is it going to be for the home team as well, where it's like, you can't relax in your own home because it's not your home. So you're
Mm-hmm.
going in your locker room, quote unquote, and it's just like, you just feel like you're on borrowed time. What player would want to come play here? Like, this is not, again, like, it's short, it's classic big business. It's classic. We want short-term reward. We're not interested in the long-term gain. And it's just an overall short-sighted move. But again, like, John Fisher doesn't care. John Fisher's, got all the money in this. And unfortunately, you know, when it comes to business, a lot of times bad guys gonna win.
Yeah. And I just sometimes I wonder, like, how can you like you have the mentality of a major league baseball player to know that you're basically going to be a road team for the next 3 years?
Well, that's where people get angry at Manfred, because it's like, dude, why aren't you doing something? Like, you're the commissioner. Like, you could yeah, I know he works for the owners. If the owners approve what's going on, I guess there's little he can do. But you can open your mouth. You can let people know how you feel. You don't have to just go along with this like, you're being dragged kicking and screaming.
Yeah, and I really think that Manfred he's also on autopilot, because the whole thing with the pitch clock, I think that they were almost forced into it to make a change and try to make something and evolve the game in order to attract a much younger fan base. And you can look at like some of the development that they could do as far as the digital and the social media side of things that they severely and sorely lack on. And just a lot of the little changes and small tweaks and investments and different things like that in their presentation, their network and whatnot, that they could do to better attract the audience and whatnot. And they don't do it. They're just refusing to do it. And it's like a lot of the times I feel like baseball won't ever move forward as a more popular sport in this country until the leadership at the top gets younger and gets more innovative. And that won't happen, unfortunately, until some more of these owners either sell or die off. And the people who either inherit and or buy these teams are people in our age bracket and maybe a little bit younger, a little bit older, where they can say, okay, hey, I see where we can make some improvements. We need to make these improvements. But it starts at the top. And until you get more of an infusion of youth in that leadership, or you get more people with youthful ideas to try to grow the game and move it forward that have more influence over these owners and whatnot in the commissioner's office, your baseball is going to stay stuck in the mud spinning its wheels.
Yeah, well, speaking of a infusion of youth, gonna take it right back to the NBA. Bronny, who did not have a great season, but also had a cardiac arrest episode. So you can't. We're gonna be tough on Bronny. Like, oh, I can't believe his numbers were so low. He's lucky he's playing. But USC in general, like, I mean, look, let's face facts. Like, it is true that they did not have a great season. And he came out earlier this week and it was reported that he was going to jump in the transfer portal. Not really a surprise to anyone. But then, like a day later, it was announced that, oh, Bronny's going to be, submitting for the draft. And at first, it's like, what? Like, it's in the announcement that Bronny, or I guess like his PR person, whoever wrote it, was like, yeah, he's gonna make himself eligible for the draft, but he's also gonna stay jumping in the transfer portal. And at first, I was just like, wait, what is that? What does that mean? I think a lot of people were like that, and I think once the dust has cleared, like everyone's kind of settled on this idea that he's gonna do the workouts with NBA teams and kind of gauge, like, okay, what teams would want to pick him up, if any team wants to pick him up, or they, is he going to pass, whatever standards they have for him to, jump up to the NBA, this quickly. And if he doesn't, he's just gonna, keep his options open and, just go into the transfer portal like he originally planned. Which, okay, I'm fine with that. I'm definitely more fine with that than what I originally thought, which was, oh, he was going to jump in the transfer portal. Then a day later, it was like, psych, I'm going to the NBA. Like, I was not cool with that, because that seems like a fool's errand for someone who, again, just got over a cardiac arrest episode and was not putting up, insane numbers in the college game, thus far in his career, and was just a freshman. So it's like, maybe stay another year or two. Like, it's not going to hurt. So where do you land on the whole Bronny to the NBA? Should they fast track this and just get him right into the NBA so we can get all the answers people have been looking for, right? Or should we actually do the reasonable thing and, kind of be like, maybe he should stay in college for a little bit?
Here's where I'll fall. So, because Keys and I were talking about this, I think yesterday, maybe the day before, and I looked it up. The rule is that you have 10 days after the end of the NBA draft combine in order to withdraw your name from draft consideration. The transfer portal is always open. It's basically like a fluid thing, from what I understand. So the dates that align, I want to say the draft combine is like the 17th through the 19th of May. So it's like May 29th is the cutoff date for him to take his name out of the hat. One of the other rules is that when you declare and everything, you have to go through all the pre-draft workouts and the combine and all of that. You have to participate. So basically what they're going to do is just see where he lines up, get the feedback from the scouts, executives, so on and so forth. And then in that 10-day period, make an evaluation and a decision. Okay, should I stay or should I go? And if I stay in school, where should I go? And I think that by the end of May, we'll have Bronny's decision whether he's going to be out of there or in there. As far as where I land on it personally, I love the fact that he's weighing his options, because if you can, if an NBA team feels like they're going to take a chance on you, especially in the first round, to get that fully guaranteed contract, go for it. Why not? Start the clock early on that second contract. Because the comp that I have for him right now is roughly like a Pat Bev type of guy. He's going to be a hound on defense. He can shoot a little bit. The difference is that Bronny's a lot more athletic than Pat Bev was. So if he can start off as that kind of guy, a good, solid rotational player, and grow into that, and they feel as though we're ready to take you now and start putting you on that pathway to stardom, fuck it, why not? I mean, we allow guys that are 18 to buy cigarettes and go to war. Why wouldn't we allow a 19-year-old to say, hey, I'm coming off a health risk. I played a little bit of college ball. Fuck it, I want to go to the league. Like, sometimes I struggle with that, because it's like, you're 18 and you can vote and decide who's going to be the future leader of not only your local, state, and federal government, but we're leery on a 19-year-old going to the NBA. It don't add up to me.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of that comes from, at least for most rational people, with the fact that there's just all the hype. Like, people have hyped this kid up since they knew he existed. Since he was born, people were like, "Oh, this guy's gonna like." If you think LeBron is great, like, wait till his kids get into the NBA. And I think that's where the issue comes in. Not even an issue, but it's just like you said. Like, the reasonable thing would be like, "Oh, yeah, he could be a Pat Bev type, a little more." Maybe has a little more muscle to him, a little more athletic, can shoot the ball better. But there's people out there who still have this idea that, like, if he's not the next Wembenyama, or if he doesn't come close to, whatever his dad is, that, like, this Bronny thing is going to be a huge bust. And it's like, he's got to chart his own path. Like, you can't hold him to the standard. His dad was 1 in a million. Like, nobody has ever had the amount of hype coming into the league that LeBron James has had. Like, the between the Chosen One cover on Sports Illustrated and ESPN showing his high school games, like, nobody has had that level of scrutiny coming into the league, and then, like, far exceeded, like, overachieve isn't even an adequate word to use for, like, how far and away LeBron James has shot over the moon the expectations people had for him. And I know some people, like, get caught up in the Jordan debate, and it's like, take the stupid Jordan debate out of it. Like, this is a guy, like, winning, like, put things in perspective. Like, winning one championship in your career is almost an impossible task. Like, very few people get to do it when you're, like, the driver of the bus, as they say. Like, yeah, you may luck onto a team or whatever, but, like, we look at a guy like Dirk, and that one championship Dirk has means so much, and nobody ever looks at Dirk and is like, well, he's not really that great because he just has the one ring. It's like, no, Dirk's amazing. He's a Hall of Famer. So now it's like, that's the baseline for greatness. Now you add on to that the multiple season MVPs, multiple finals MVPs, 4 championships, all the stuff with the Olympics, the individual stats being the highest score in NBA history. Like, you add all of it up, and it's insane. Bronny, I'm sorry, can't do that. He's got to do his own thing.
Yeah. And the thing that I always tell people in this situation is that you have to look at him in a vacuum of who is he as the individual player, and try to separate him as much as you humanly possibly can from who his dad is. And when you just look at Bronny as the player, that's why I can say I'm not comparing him to Pat Bev as a knock against either of those guys. I'm not saying that, Pat Bev is like this all-time great. I'm not saying that Bronny is this scrub or either vice versa. What I'm saying is that's who I see him as if he was to play at the NBA level. Right. And you have to separate all of the hype and everything else that comes along with him and just look at him and see how he and his game translate to what he can possibly do. Would I like to see him go back to school and hone his skills and show that, hey, I'm healthy 1 year plus removed from this cardiac event, and I've also improved my game? Sure, of course. Why not? But it's almost a strike while the iron is hot type of thing. And if you're going to cook, you might as well cook while the pot on the stove is already warmed up. Like, I'm getting ready to fry some chicken today. I'm going to put my temperature thing in it, and I like to drop my chicken when it reaches a certain temperature, because I know when you drop that chicken, the temperature is going to lower. And I know the next batch, I got to let it warm up again before I drop it back in again. So it's like, you have to know when to drop that chicken and when to take it out. And I mean, if the grease is hot, put the chicken in the pot.
You know what? I cannot fault that logic. That is flawless chicken logic right there. If the grease is hot, put it in the pot. Well, that kind of brings us seamlessly into this week's cool down segment, because you mentioned new and improved, and we're done talking sports here. We talk championships. Now we're talking about just chips, baby. We're talking Chips Ahoy. Came out sort of very sneakily. I almost missed this story, where they now have what they're calling improved cookies. Like they fucked up the formula. They messed with their formula, and they have new cookies. And I'm curious about this because Chips Ahoy, they suck. Like there's no secret. Like, we all ate Chips Ahoy growing up, but like, it's a very inferior cookie. Like, it's very crumbly. You just kind of eat it because it's like what's around. But my thing is, I don't know how much better they can make it, because they fix this problem like 20 years ago when they invented Chips Ahoy Chewy?
Well, here's the deal. Companies often do this, and you have to think about the economic times that we're in right now, where it's causing them to look, where can we make cutbacks to increase profitability, because goods and services are increasing. So they probably fuck with the formula to try to save money and see if they can keep something or change something or make something better. And they're not trying to make it better. They're just trying to save money. So they'll say new and improved. That way it'll mind fuck you into thinking, oh, it's going to be better than the last version. It's not necessarily better. It's just different because they changed something, and now it's going to could taste funny because they're saving money. That's all this is. It's never new and improved. It's the same old crap, probably worse. They just telling you it's new and improved as a marketing ploy to get you to believe it. And now you're going to go out and buy it thinking that it's better, and it's really not.
Right, because I know who the market for this is right away. It's people who had Chips Ahoy when they were younger, but haven't picked up a bag of Chips Ahoy in like 15 years. And they're going to taste it, and they're going to go, well, you know what? This does taste a little different than I remember. And that's going to be the extent of it. Like, there's not, because that's what I haven't tried them, but from what I've been seeing in initial reviews, people have been like, it's not... Like, it's almost like people haven't been able to adequately put it into words, because I've heard people say, like, the cookie has, like, a slightly less brittle texture, but, like, the taste is still, like, the same taste. Like, the chips haven't... I guess, like, someone said, like, the chips may be smoother, but it's like, how would you even... I wouldn't be able to tell if the chips are smoother in a Chips Ahoy cookie. Like, what does that even mean?
And my thing is, when I always ate them, I dunked them in milk until they got semi-soggy and then ate them.
Yeah.
I rarely just ate them right out the bag and just like pop, dry.
I would always put them in the microwave for like 20 seconds.
Oh, okay. See, I never did that because I was just like, if I want soft cookies, I like to bake my own. So I just make up some, bake my own. But like every now and then I will buy like a chip like that. But I go to my local grocery store and they have their brand and it's way better than Chips Ahoy. It even comes with pecans and oats in it. So it's even that much better.
Man. Yeah. If you're hearing this, anyone within the sound of my voice, make your own cookies. It's really not that hard. Like go cook for yourself. Buy the dough. You don't even have to make the dough. Just buy the dough. You have all the choices in the world for cookie dough at your local grocery store. Treat yourself. Don't do this. Don't do this. This skivats, this fugazi chip. Don't do it.
Yeah, if you follow me on my social medias and stuff, like I cook all the time, and I'm like always figuring something out, and I'll figure out like, okay, I want to try this, I want to try this. And last week, I think it was Southwest egg rolls. I tried a formula and did that. I'm frying chicken today or tomorrow or something, and it's always something. But like when I figured out how to make a really good chocolate chip cookie, and we make it like in a big cookie cake, it was a hit. And the only complaint I've ever gotten, my daughter says, "Hey, Dad, can you use a little less sea salt?" She was like, "The last time I kind of tasted a little bit of the sea salt in the cookies." I was like, "All right, bet. I know to cut down on a little bit of the sea salt that I use." So,
oh man, you know what that's making my stomach go? My stomach's doing when I hear that. But we gotta wrap this up. I gotta let you go. There's a big WrestleMania weekend afoot that everyone needs to get involved in. So, where can people find you? Where can people find Sucio Sports and Sucio Boys?
Man, you can find us if you search on Apple, Spotify, Google, search the CDB Multimedia Company. You'll see the Sucio Boys, you'll see Sucio Sports, Drelax Podcast, Aim High Health and Mental Health and Fitness. You'll see Four Corners of Commentary, Wrestling. You'll see a different angle, another mental health, more in-depth mental health podcast. So there's just a lot that we have going on. You can find me at _Jermaine. That's THE_JERMAINE. That's on Instagram and on Twitter. I still call it Twitter because, like they said in what is that movie? Coming to America. His mama name him Clay. I'm gonna call him Clay.
Yep. Well, Jermaine, thank you for taking some time out. I really appreciate it. And
man, anytime.
Yeah, gotta have you back on. But with all of that said, take what you need. No, it's the other podcast. That's Wrestle Rap. Go listen to that. WRASSLERAP. Go follow this podcast again over on YouTube. YouTube.com/@Oddball Podcast. Go listen, subscribe, Spotify, Apple. You know where to get your podcast from if you're listening to one right now. And I will see you back here, same time, same place next week. You're listening to Oddball with Vin Forte. My name is Vin Forte. Bye-bye.